we're looking at the Trumpification, but also the Zionist agenda, which the Trump administration is a Zionist administration, being enforced now on TikTok.
TikTok is now in the hands of some of the most powerful billionaires in the world. So what does that mean for the future of the app, specifically when it comes to free speech and censorship? My name is James Lee, and you're watching Beyond the Headlines on Breaking Points. Last year, Washington made major moves to ban TikTok over what they say were national security concerns, officially because of the app's ties to ByteDance in China and potential for data access by Beijing. But many argued that the bigger worry was actually how the app was hosting uncensored content on Israel, Ukraine, and a host of other controversial topics that didn't align with what some in power wanted to see. Now, the landscape is shifting dramatically. A consortium of investors, including Larry Ellison of Oracle, Michael Dell, Lachlan Murdoch, and possibly also Rupert Murdoch, along with firms like Silver Lake and Andreessen Horowitz, will now control about 80% of TikTok's US operation. But the question now isn't just who owns TikTok, it's how this new ownership will reshape what gets seen, what gets suppressed, and who really gets to speak. According to the White House, TikTok's new algorithm will, quote, be secured, retrained, and operated in the United States. Dropsite News recently reported that TikTok has initiated a, quote, sweeping crackdown on pro-Palestine creators, deleting videos, scrubbing comments, and burying posts about Gaza. And under the direction of their new hate speech chief, Erica Mendel, who is a former IDF instructor, TikTok has also introduced an overhaul of its community guidelines, like banning users from calling the IDF terrorists and rolling out automated moderation that retroactively wipes posts. So to walk us through what's already happening in real time, I'm joined by two prominent news creators on TikTok who have experienced firsthand how changes to the algorithm and moderation are translating into censorship in practice. Blakely of I Am Blakely and Danny of WFF News. Welcome to Breaking Points.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I really wanted to bring you guys on first off because you guys represent, I think, two different sides. Like you guys have two different ideologies, two different audiences, but are both talking about censorship on TikTok. So I wanted to get your guys' perspective. I know, Blakely, you're more, I would say, on the left. You know, you make a lot of pro-Palestine content, critique of Trump. Danny, I would, I know you very well. I would classify you as more MAGA light, but you also talk about STEM issues, current events, conspiracies. So maybe Blakely, can you tell us a little bit about, what your experience has been on TikTok recently, and then compare that to maybe a year ago?
Yeah, the differences have been crazy in not just what they've been censoring of my content and not just mine, people, so many of my mutuals, including you, um, that have been experiencing the same thing, but also the lack of censorship when it comes to things that they used to crack down on. So they've allowed a lot more when it comes to criticism of, for instance, trans people, regardless of how you feel about trans people or the trans issues. There used to be a lot more enforcement of their community guidelines when it came to talking negatively about trans people. Now that has been lifted. You'll see videos that are going viral of people making fun of trans people and misgendering them. And I just noticed that because I thought we're looking at the Trumpification, but also the Zionist agenda, which the Trump administration is a Zionist administration, being enforced now on TikTok. The censorship was already really bad like a year ago, and it has gotten worse to the point where everything that I post that includes any criticism of Israel, any criticism of prominent Israeli figures, it doesn't matter how newsworthy it is, they mess with it somehow. And they'll do these little games where they'll take the video down and they'll give you a strike and then you'll appeal it. And they say that they have a transparent and fair appeals process. They'll restore your video and then they'll take it down again without giving you the opportunity to appeal it and without giving you a reason. It'll be like community guidelines. For what guideline? Community guidelines. Like they'll just make there to me, it's like they're just making it up now as they go along. Like, we're just gonna take this down. We're not really gonna give you a reason, and we're gonna give you no way to get it back. I have had videos taken down recently where I am just talking about the news and they're calling it violent extremism.
Mm-mm. Well, I
Violent
mean, the
extremism.
news is oftentimes violent and extreme, so I don't know what you want to do about that. So no, it's interesting that I'm hearing. So like you're saying that the TikTok moderation is aligning to maybe the Trump ideology. So I'm curious from Danny's perspective, who's more on, I would say, on the right. What are you experiencing in terms of censorship? Are there certain topics that you see that are flagged disproportionately from your videos?
So, first of all, I love TikTok and it really made my dreams come true of being able to speak and be paid, getting in the creator program. I went viral on accident with my first post and kept doing it. Now I get to do what I love. And the best part of TikTok was that I was able to connect with people all over the world that had the same beliefs as me. But I was flagged and had so many videos taken down in the last 2 years. I got on late in 2023 for misinformation that I started calling myself misinformation, a little play on words, because it was just so ridiculous. In the past, you started to learn as a creator what you could and could not talk about. So climate change was a no. If you questioned anything about the climate change narrative, I did a story about how the UK was experimenting to dim the sun, immediately taken down. When Ireland appointed a ministry of truth where they were going to start appointing individuals to look at their citizens' online speech and decide whether or not that was hate speech. That was taken down. All of these videos, by the way, went viral and then they're taken down. I'm given strikes for them. But interestingly, during the Biden administration, my videos about RFK Jr. were always taken down. And even Kash Patel, prior to him becoming the director of the FBI, I was very in favor of Kash Patel at the time. Right now, with the whole Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk thing, not really a huge fan of everything going on there. But those videos would be taken down. And so, same with vaccines. So you started to learn as a creator, okay, if I want to stay in this program, I want to keep my account healthy, I'm going to have to avoid these topics. And so, what I find so interesting is that now these new owners are saying we are going to retrain the algorithm. And really, to me, that means they're going to be retraining me, right? Because now there will probably be topics that historically I was not able to talk about, and now new topics that I am not able to talk about. So I really feel like the retraining the algorithm is going to be retraining the creators. And it's really sad. WFF News stands for World for Freedom. I was so sick of being censored during the COVID era for my thoughts on the mandates and the lockdowns that I wanted to be able to speak freely. And unfortunately, in the United States, where freedom of speech should reign, that's just not the case on any social media platform. And I think we're just going to see more of that censorship, maybe just in a different way now with these new owners.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys both if you guys want to chime in terms of the communications from TikTok, because I haven't heard anything personally, but are they communicating clearly when policy changes are being made and how you should, what you can do to steer clear of violations?
I would say no. And kind of just to echo what Danny was just saying, it's actually kind of infuriating because I love TikTok too. Like TikTok was like quickly becoming my favorite app, specifically because it wasn't under the BS of the US and the way that the other ones were censoring. And to have them, all of my viral videos, by the way, would get taken down too. They took down videos where I was just making jokes about like Zionism or the censorship around it, and then they would take the videos down that were parodies of what they were doing. Like it's just insane, and it makes me sad that they're going to destroy the app. Everything great about the app is going to be destroyed. The reason why people like TikTok, and and maybe Danny has a different reason, but I imagine it might be similar to mine, that it wasn't controlled by the US. That was one of the benefits of it, that it wasn't controlled by our regular tech overlords, and also that it had a superior algorithm. It had a superior algorithm. You didn't feel like you had to be paying or getting up in a certain way in order to get seen on there. Like it felt very democratized. And that was really awesome. They're going to destroy it. It's going to be run by Larry Ellison, possibly Rupert or Lachlan Murdoch, and they're going to retrain the algorithm. Like, so you're going to destroy it. You're going to ruin everything that everybody loved about TikTok. And I don't think they're being clear about it because, again, they claim we have fair appeals process, clear community guidelines. No, you don't. Oh, except for the fact that you remove supremacy of all kinds. It used to say we oppose supremacy of all kinds. They remove that so that Jewish supremacy could be an exception and just put white supremacy. And they're doing all these little tricks. And then when you, because there's no human, this is something I've always hated about TikTok though. There's no human. There's no way to get a hold of anybody. So it's like, you're just, if you get your account destroyed, that's it. And to me, that is also a bigger picture because TikTok is making me insane right now. But I think one of the bigger pictures is, and this kind of goes to what YouTube did today, is that until people on the left and the right come together to say censorship is not going to be tolerated by any of us, we are never going to get free from this. As long as censorship is embraced by one side or the other in order to own their opposition, we're always going to be in this cycle. We're always going to be in this cycle because people can use censorship, whether they're on the left or the right, to weaponize it against their political opposition. Until somebody gets some goddamn principles and says, I'm opposed to censorship no matter what, this isn't gonna change. And with TikTok, the Zionist rule of it cannot be ignored. Like, they're literally going to make it so that you can't say anything negative or critical of a foreign government at all.
Yeah, I mean, Danny, I know you don't touch on the Israel topics as much, but do you think you're going to make changes to how you approach content creation, especially because you're covering breaking news, current events, and going forward to make sure that you don't get, censored or banned on the app?
I do that now. I mean, I do that now. And what's so interesting is that I had a video banned just this last week. And, yes, during the elections, I did lean right. And I was very vocal about that, big RFK Jr. fan, and questioning the FBI's narrative about the Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk shooting. Those are the videos that are getting banned. So you just have to realize, to Blakely's point, that it's going to be censorship for one side or the other, and that's going to change over time. And I totally agree with Blakely that there should just be no censorship at all. When Jimmy Kimmel, for example, his show temporarily was, taken down, I openly disagreed with that because I didn't like being censored for my opinions during COVID. So I think that as long as you have opinions, as long as they're not hurting anybody, they should be allowed. Will that happen? No. I think that we know that as creators. And I think, like I said earlier, this algorithm retraining is going to be retraining creators to teach them what they can and cannot talk about. And when it comes to Israel, one of the main reasons that I voted for Trump was because I didn't want to keep giving money to Ukraine and Israel and the Middle East. I wanted America first. And so that's obviously hasn't happened. And we're still giving money to both of those countries. And I would never dare say that on TikTok because I know I would just be asking for a strike and for censorship.
So then, okay, so then the main.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask, and you can chime in here next, Blakely, but I think from the pushback from the legacy perspective or the legacy media perspective would be towards people like you who talk about the news on social media is that you guys aren't, true journalists. You guys don't have journalistic standards, so you're out there spewing misinformation or whatnot. So I'm just wondering from your perspective, what kinds of responsibility do you think you bear in terms of reporting things that are going on, and where do you draw the line between like, hey, I'm going to speculate about something versus reporting factual things?
I would say, first of all, I don't respect legacy journalists. All you're doing is, what do you mean? Like, no, they're only considered respected because of the fact that they've got those names behind them. But if anything, all the journalists that I respect the most are citizen journalists and people who don't live in DC. The people who live in DC, who live in New York that are journalists, no, they're not journalists. They are an extension of the elite class. You cannot accurately report on people in power if you are besties with all of them. That's not how it works. Even if I'm being the most generous to these people and saying that they're probably good people, it's impossible to be that friendly with people, to be in their social circle, and then to adequately report on them and report on the powerful. That is why you see the best journalists are people who are independent and who oftentimes are not living in the Beltway. Or if they are living in the Beltway, again, they're independent. They're not an extension of that elite class. So I think that we really need to redefine what we consider journalism and start to go back to what it used to be, which was usually a working class profession of people holding people in power to account. When it comes to my responsibility, I tell the truth. I mean, I don't consider myself a journalist, but I do talk about the news a lot. I do comment on it. And my responsibility, I think, is to fact check to the best of my ability and to tell the truth and to say when I don't know something, which I always do, and to also always disclose that these are also my opinions. So when I talk about something, I will cite news sources and say, this is what's being reported. I will say when I don't know something, I'll be like, I'm not sure. I'm speculating. Like, I'll say that. And if I get something wrong, I will say I was wrong about it. That's really the best you can do, you know?
100%. And I think to your point, to go back to what journalism was, the most important cornerstone of that is to question everything. And what we are seeing in mainstream media is that they're just taking narrative talking points because they are bought and paid for, and they are telling us what we are supposed to hear to push the government agenda. And as an independent, I have a duty to, like you said, fact check everything, sort the sources, but cite the sources, but also question everything. And that's what I do. And I'm not always right, but either is the mainstream media. They've gotten it wrong a lot of times too. So I think that TikTok and social media platforms and independent journalists and this new way of news is really a threat to the government and to their narrative. And that is why now you see like the Murdochs coming in to take ownership of this app so that they can try and push the stories that align with what they are trying to push.
Yeah, I think we're going to be in for a slog in terms of just information warfare because that's kind of literally what's going on with the elites, the billionaires battling for who gets to control which platform, meaning they get to control the flow of information. You have people like myself, you guys trying to get out maybe counter narratives to what you're hearing in mainstream media. And so this is all going to be kind of clashing and see who wins. And you also see now independent creators going towards more traditional reporting, right? They're getting co-opted. You're seeing that action as well. So there's a little bit of a jumbled mess right now. So we'll have to see what plays out. I think it probably will never, despite the what's happening with TikTok, it'll probably never go back to how it was before, where you have, three cable news channels and they control all the flow of information. I think there is always going to be information that is getting out there that's going on with the public. And you could see that right now with Tyler Robinson, right? You have people who are believing that, okay, Tyler Robinson's the shooter, the texts are real. You have people talking about how maybe Israel has killed him or has killed Charlie Kirk, or you have people saying it was a radical leftist. So there's differing narratives that you could see right now, and I think the legacy powers are trying to keep that under wraps. So I guess the final question is, what do you guys think is going, for your guys' reporting and content creation going forward? Where do you see things transpiring over the next year or so?
I think what we're going to see in the next year is a lot of creators jumping apps,
Hmm.
right? Because if I cannot speak freely and have opinions that differ from the narrative, I am not going to be posting on TikTok. I am not going to be spending my time doing lives on TikTok. Even in January, I just started an Instagram. I never had an Instagram, but crazy enough, in the 180 that's happened since 2020, now Instagram is a more free platform in terms of freedom of speech than TikTok is. You might see another app come up and replace TikTok. So that is going to really force the hand of the new owners to reevaluate what they allow, because the creators are the ones that make the app popular. Without us, there is no app. And if you cut us off and we don't have our ability to, question the narrative or talk about a conspiracy theory or tell a story or give our opinion, the app will die on its own, and it will be a really poor investment for all of these big tech giants because it will not be what it has been in the past.
I'm really worried about it because, as you said, they're really pushing legacy. And the thing is about it, and Danny said this a minute ago, is that they get things wrong all the time too. They just pretend it didn't happen. They oftentimes won't even correct it. They'll just move on. Or they'll put it, 8 paragraphs down in a New York Times article. Like, to me, these people are actors. They're wrong all the time, but because they've got the air of respectability, YouTube, for instance, will give them more prominence on their page. They'll say reliable sources and put them on their page, despite the fact that these people are just actors. They just recite things. They're wrong all the time. And TikTok does the same thing. TikTok will allow people like Chris Cuomo, Fredo over Islamophobic Fredo, to get up there and lie and lie and lie and lie. And they leave it up because he's under the banner of an authoritative news source. But yet, one of the things that they just did was hire an ex-IOF officer to moderate hate content. And you already, watch out, where's those fireworks coming from? And what you see is, I don't know if you guys saw that. That was very
Yeah.
strange. And what you see is they're already showing their hand in that the Islamophobia on the app is already next level. It's already next level. You say one thing critical of the Israeli government and they'll cry and take the video down. But they'll be on there saying the most insane anti-Arab, racist against Palestinians, Islamophobic, and no one says anything. So it's maddening and it's scary because there is no consistency. It's about the people who are in power, the billionaire class, the Zionists, the government. They want to be the ones to have control. And when they see people that are actually speaking in a way that doesn't align with all of their BS and the control they want to have, they're doing things like coming in and taking over TikTok. And so ironic that they all said, like, oh, China, they're so censored. China wants to control what everybody sees in their country. Boo, that's you. That's literally our government doing that to us right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because before it was like, oh, it's China, China, China. So we'll see what happens. But definitely appreciate you guys for coming on and sharing your perspective.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is it for me this week. If you want more stories that the mainstream media is unwilling to tell, you can head on over to my YouTube channel, 5149 with James Lee. The link will be in the description below. As always, really appreciate your time and keep on tuning into Breaking Points.